Hi friend, I am so glad that you're here, and it's occurred to me that I've never really shared my story. I've been asked about it numerous times. I may have even wrote about it a little bit, but in the end, I never really shared my story. And I know that I've gotten questions about, well, what is your story, Margarita? What created where you're at now? How did you become a light worker? How did you awaken into your starseed awareness and your power? And because people were asking, I decided, you know what, I should just make a live about it. So here we are. So I wanted to share that before I became a healer in private practice and doing the mentorship and the coaching that I do now and the divine power activations that I do now, I was actually in the music business. I was into punk rock. I was writing up what was called a zine, an independently published magazine that was doing pretty well, actually. It was kind of an underground pop culture classic, and it was even registered with the Library of Congress, and music became my life, and I still love music a lot. I really loved that life. However, as I just started getting older, and it was basically 2001 at this time, that I just realized, it just kind of dropped in, like one of those days where, you were just doing something, like maybe doing your household chores or something, and something just pops in. That's how it was for me in acupuncture. So I literally had no acupuncture interest previously. I never, even at that point, had an acupuncture session performed on me. And so I didn't really know the experience of acupuncture yet. I just felt the calling, and I just knew, I'm here to do some bigger work. And I wasn't even thinking yet about the bigger picture of then I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. No, I just was like, I know I need to help. I know I have some kind of higher calling. This is a piece of it. And so I just stepped forward and I just went into acupuncture school, but not without a lot of resistance from my parents, especially my dad. And the reason why is because he was a Western physician. He was a radiologist. And when I first shared about the fact that I wanted to go to acupuncture school, and me telling this to a Western physician who knows nothing about any of this stuff, his initial reaction was, Christ! Like literally he threw his hands up to the sky and to the heavens and just said, Christ. And that's because he was just like, oh my God, what now, right? So the thing is that I just still knew, I knew it didn't make sense. I knew it didn't make sense to my parents, to most people, because most people would actually do a lot of research, right? And explore things and do all that. But no, I was just like, no, I'm going to acupuncture school. And I just knew it, and that was just kind of all there was to that. And so then I did start acupuncture school in 2001. By that point, I was also finishing up being a Reiki master teacher as well at the same time. And, one thing that was funny was that my father actually allowed me to treat him after, when I was starting to finishing up my schooling, which was in 2009. It was it was about 7-8 years or something that I was in acupuncture school, because I did the longer track. And even though my father in the beginning really didn't approve, he didn't think there was anything to it. He thought I would be, basically wasting my money. I treated him. And I treated him for sciatica, actually, and very successful, I may add. And he said, you know what? You have a really good bedside manner. You're going to be okay. And that's what he told me. And he also had seen me studying all my herbs and my acupuncture points and all the memorization. No one tells you how much memorization is involved when you're an acupuncture student. I had to memorize tables and, acupuncture contraindications and all these other things, right? And that said, I went on to open up my first private practice, my first acupuncture clinic in 2009. And the thing is that didn't come before a lot of resistance, because what actually happened was that after graduating in 2009, I was still doing day jobs. I was still, hiding behind, being in customer service and doing all this other stuff, right? That was not acupuncture. And until this one day, when this really fateful day happened, where my ex at the time broke up with me. And in that moment, I just really was like, what the hell, right? I was just like, what the hell? And not so much about that situation, which yes, I was really upset about that. But then I just realized, I took a look at myself and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? That was really the dialogue, to be honest, what happened when that happened. And so I looked at myself and I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life? I'm here at this soul-sucking day job. And it really was. I mean, I learned a lot. I was there receiving information, receiving the wisdom, learning from my boss and all this stuff, but I hated it. I really did. And it just really was truly soul sucking, to the point that I literally had nausea every Sunday night because I knew I was going in the following day, which then prompted my understanding of meditation, which I do every day now. So, I mean, everything is so divine, right? But that said, in that pivotal moment where that was the ending of this old relationship, and thank God it ended, by the way, but I said, you know what, I'm just going to go all in for myself. I mean, I have really nothing to lose at this point, right? Like, I'm going to go do it. So I started being an acupuncturist in private practice, but I didn't have a full-blown office and all this other stuff yet. I rented per hour. And it wasn't, my ideal office situation yet. But then soon I found a place that was a better fit for me. And that was where I ended up staying for like 14 years or something at Omni Wellness in New York City in the Flatiron District. And then I started with 1 day a week. I just rented out 1 full day a week. And then it became 2 full days a week. Then it became 3 full days a week. Then I was renting 5 days a week, and I was back-to-back patients. And that was because I was good. It was because I knew how to work with my patients. I knew how to get them results, first of all, and then, they were spreading the word, and a lot of my patients in New York City were like dancers and actors and makeup artists and, musicians and, all that kind of stuff, and so they were talking, and so, I just really, it was like word of mouth, basically, and so I was just back-to-back patients, and I loved it, and I ended up making my first 6 figures as a licensed acupuncturist. And by this time, not only was I already a licensed acupuncturist, I was a Reiki master teacher. In a couple years thereafter, I did also get initiated as a medicine woman in the Maya, Toltec, Native American tradition. And so that is also a big part of what I do now. And it may not be me doing shamanic journeys every single day, right? Although I do that for specific clients, depending what they're needing and what I'm offering. But it's just flavor, it flavors everything I do. So the shamanic practice. And then, so that said, I just kept going on and doing my work and building my private practice. And then 2016 comes around, which I guess is like 7 years ago now. And in that moment, by that time, I had already met my sacred union twin flame partner. And you've heard me talk about him before. His name is Stacy. And by that time, we were a couple years together. And the thing with twin flame relationships is that you activate each other. Like when both of you are ready to be in union, it's like you literally activate each other just by being around each other. And so that's exactly what happened with he and I. Like I was activating him into a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. He was activating me into my Starseed awakening, basically. And when that happened, like we just started remembering our past lives. And we even started remembering this one previous past life where, some of you who've been with me for a while, know the story already, but it was when all the continents on the earth were one still, and Gaia was still called Terra, and the dinosaurs were still around, and me and Stacy actually lived in the trees, and we did a lot of hunting together, and we were star beings. We were not in human form. And the reason why we were taken back to that specific lifetime was probably because that was one of the first lifetimes we had together, but also because of the information of that lifetime. which basically was, and Stacy was the one who remembered our names. His name was Proud Wolf Star. My name was Lady Light Starbringer. And the reason why my name was that was because I would literally go up to the mountains and I would call down the star nations and ask them to help Gaia when she was in trouble, right? And so that really was kind of like, I put two and two together, and it would just like blew my mind that basically that's why I'm remembering now, because I'm reprising my role to help Gaia. And, you know, of course, and here I am now in Sedona, where I'm in the mountains, and I'm like doing these activations in the mountains and all the vortexes. And so it's like I'm reliving this again in service to Gaia, in service to my greater work, right? And in that moment too, I came into this awareness that I actually am a carrier and activator of power, and you know, this divine power code that each and every one of us has. And my understanding and awareness that came, like, kind of blew my mind open about it, was I realized we all have this inner power, and not just like, oh, you're powerful, but like we literally have in our DNA latent codes of divine power. And that, you know, basically in the majority of us, maybe minus 1% or something, it's all dormant, it's all latent. And that was actually a big part of my power that I got to open into my bigger work, was activating that divine power code in other people. And so I've been doing that for like 7 years now. Another code that I carry that I don't talk about as much is not only the divine code of power, but the divine code of the consciousness of oneness. And so that, like all these codes that I carry, it flavors all of my work now. And I actually have offerings that are created and centered around that, right? And so that's when it really just blew my mind of like, oh my God, everyone has this. Everyone has this in our DNA, you know? And so you heard me talk about it if you've seen my previous lives, that like literally only like 2 strands are known to scientists, right? But we have like literally numerous 12, 24, you know, beyond strands. And those strands that are not the 2 strands that are known to scientists, they're actually connected to our divine power. And, you know, that was part of what was, you know, has been kind of under fire, under attack in the past couple of years to kind of what's the word? Not disengage, but like deactivate that permanently in our DNA. And so anyway, that's just more of an aside. But the point being is that in 2016, I realized I could activate this divine power code, and also activate it all over the world, like at global sites. And so then the following year, which was 2017, that's when I actually started going live every week on Facebook with what I called then the Mother Gaia Power Portal, where I performed an activation every single week. And, you know, doing these activations for Gaia to help her in her consciousness ascension herself. And then I also created my global business, and I started doing my mentorship work, my coaching work, my power activation work for spiritual entrepreneurs and New Earth leaders. And maybe not so coincidentally, in 2017 of that same year, I also published my now #1 best-selling book called Chakra Healing. And so it's literally, I don't know, last I checked, it was #1 in the chakras department on Amazon. And it has like, I don't know, 25,000, 26,000 5-star reviews or something like that. It's doing good, I'll just say, right? And so then I published that in 2017. And then the following year after that, I led my first global activation retreat, and it was at Mount Shasta. And the reason it was at Mount Shasta is because Gaia said, I want you to go here, 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 and here. She literally had like a whole list. She wanted me to go from start to finish, right? And she wanted me to start at Mount Shasta. So I started at Mount Shasta, did some really powerful global activation work for the planet and for humanity. And then the following year, which was 2019, then my next global activation was at Machu Picchu. And that was some, even deeper work, because I was doing a lot of stuff on the land. I was doing a lot of stuff of like closing, gateways, like stargates that were, kind of basically allowing things that should not be coming into our planet to enter. So I was doing all these kinds of things, right? And activating the temples of sacred divine power all over Gaia. And then after that, after that year, as everyone knows, then COVID was around, right? And so I was not doing the retreats. However, my business and my higher work was already starting to pivot and to shift. Although I did get to go to Egypt, which was another place that Gaia wanted me to go to activate some codes. And I did do that 2 years ago, not as my own global activation, but some higher work I was doing. And then now fast forward to 2024 now, where it's been like 15 years now that I'm a healthcare practitioner, a licensed acupuncturist, Reiki master teacher, a medicine woman, 7 years as a spiritual coach, being a mentor, a coach, an activator of divine power codes and beyond, actually, for New Earth leaders who are spiritual entrepreneurs, who are showing up in bigger ways, who are raising the consciousness of humanity through their offerings and through their work. And that's why, I really wanted to focus on helping spiritual entrepreneurs, especially now, because our work is so important. Like, it's literally vital on this planet right now. So that is why I'm just like blinders on, helping the spiritual entrepreneurs, right? Last year as well, you may have noticed that after 33 years of living in New York City, I moved to Sedona, Arizona, where I now live. And now I just do my higher work, helping my clients embody their power, because it is a 3-step process that I take them through. And it's not like now we're going to do this and this and this, right? But it's just like a body of experience and of like work, really, of activation, being grounded in your power, and then being embodied in your power, right? So this is kind of the trajectory of kind of where I started before I became a healer and, a light worker, all over the world. I really was having a brick and mortar business. It was centered in New York City. And now I'm here in Sedona, so, I'm creating and opening a certain level of my private practice here as well. And now I help people globally, like literally globally. At first it was, I helped people in Brooklyn, in Arizona, in California, in Hawaii. And then it became, I was helping people in Canada. I had clients in Botswana, in Singapore, in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and beyond, right? I don't remember like all of the amazing places all of my clients are from. But I'm just so grateful for this work, because when you just literally trust yourself, and that's why I just wanted to share my story so you could feel the vibration of my work, of my journey, and also just allowing it to land in your field, because I know that for people who tend to follow my work, it's because there's something about what I'm sharing that really resonates with them for some reason, and they may not even know what the reason is. But in my sharing this story with you, my story in particular, I'm hoping to shed some light on kind of like the vibe of how I approach my work, the level of depth that I also provide my work, and also just to like see where you're at too, and to see that you're not alone in this process, to see that, even if I'm, further steps ahead, that we all start somewhere. Like, even with social media, I started from zero, like everyone else, right? And then I've been building it, and that's because I just literally tap in, allow whatever the higher intel is to drop in, and I follow it like gospel, right? I don't say, oh, well, that didn't make sense. I just follow it, and I'm just in. And that's what, when you follow your path that way, it will just open doors for you, and it is monumentous. And so I hope that this helped you. And I just really also had a pleasure to share my story with you, because not a lot of people know my story, but that is really how I opened into my greater work. This is really how I open into my stuff that I do now, right? It's not something that you just pop out of the womb and then you're all set, right? Like you're automatically, performing activations and stuff out of the womb. No, it doesn't happen that way. It is a whole experience of life experience and opening into your power and your embodiment and choosing you every single time. And that's really what I share with my private clients, is just helping them to be initiated in their higher power, which often means opening up into new abilities, because that's often what happens, and really learning how to maneuver and work with their new abilities and their higher work. So anyway, it was such a joy to share this with you. Thank you so much, and sending you so much love. I hope this served.